Hello, everybody. Welcome, high level listeners. We're back with a new speaking practice episode agreeing and disagreeing at work. Have you ever wondered, how do I politely tell my colleagues that I don't agree with them? Or have you ever stayed quiet at work or in a meeting because you didn't quite know how to share your opinion? Do you find yourself simply saying yes or no to your coworkers and want something a bit more natural? Well, that is exactly what we're going to show you today. We're going to teach you some really useful phrases and expressions that you can use to both agree and disagree politely and clearly at work. Almost all of these phrases are used in both American and British English, so you can feel confident using them in both places and in both accents.
Yes, that's right. Today, we're very excited to help you communicate more honestly with your colleagues without seeming rude or too direct or unprofessional at all. My name's Mark. I'm the British voice here on High Level Listening, and together with Kat from the USA, we're going to help you agree and disagree with your coworkers in high level English.
So, as a quick reminder before we begin, we always put subtitles on our videos, but if you also want a PDF transcript of this episode as a downloadable file that you can take offline and study at your own pace, you can join us as a high level listening member here on YouTube. There are details about joining as a member in the description below.
So, in this video, we'll go through a range of words and phrases, starting with strongly agreeing with colleagues, going through to strongly disagreeing with them. After each word and phrase, there'll be a short dialogue so you can hear how this phrase sounds in a real conversation. Let's get started. All of these next phrases are for when you strongly agree with a colleague or they say something and you think it's a good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, here's a quick conversation. Well, I just think it would be better if we get started tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let's get started early tomorrow.
Phrase number 2, exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. Here's a short dialogue using exactly. The boss has lots of good ideas, but he just never follows through with them.
Exactly. I never know if I should start planning things or just wait until he forgets. Phrase number 3, 100% agree. 100% agree.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Here's a quick conversation. It might be nice to start the meetings with a quick recap of the previous meeting.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'll send everyone an email and let them know.
Phrase number 4, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Here's a little dialogue. I feel like it would be better if we had a 30-minute break instead of a 20-minute break.
I couldn't agree more. We could all use a longer break.
So, this next set of phrases will be useful short phrases when your friend or coworker is making some points that you agree with, but you don't want to stop them talking and you don't want to interrupt them. In British and American working culture, sometimes being silent can seem like you don't agree or maybe you don't understand. So these little phrases will show that you're still listening, you still understand, and you still agree.
The first one, sure. Sure. I always pair this with a little nod. Sure. Sure.
Sure. Sure. Sure. Sure. Like I'm still listening.
I like this one because I think we do have a different pronunciation. I would say sure, Sure.
I say sure,
Uh,
sure, right? Like the seashore, sure.
the next one, of course. Of course. And this is a nod, but it's also, oh, of course. Of course.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Now, this is an interesting one. It's a and a hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Mm. Hmm.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I think this is the least formal one for me. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-uh is no, and uh-huh is yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Right.
So I really like all of those because I'm not going to stop you from talking. I'm just letting you know that I'm listening. Ah, yeah. Uh-huh. Right, right. Mm-hmm. Sure, sure. So these are all common little words and phrases that we use to make sure that the other person knows we're still talking. Especially when you're on the phone, these are great. Because if you don't talk to me on the phone, hello, are you there? So you need to say these things. Uh-huh. Of course. Sure. Right. Now, you don't have to say all of them all the time, but usually after a point or two, Mark might be talking, saying a few things. There's a small break. Right. Yes. Sure. Of course. Mm-hmm. Right. So these are great for those little filler words to agree with someone. If you do have the opportunity to confirm and talk a bit more and you need a little bit longer sentences, these would be some great phrases. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Here's a little dialogue with that phrase. I just think this is more important and we should start here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I totally agree. Our next phrase, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. We're saying that it's logical. That makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I understand and I like your idea.
So here's a quick conversation. So I switched up these two things to make it easier for everybody.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it'll be easier in the future. Thanks.
All right, our next phrase, I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Here's a quick conversation. It's that I don't like the new logo. It just doesn't make me think of our business.
Yeah, I see what you mean. We can try something different.
The next phrase, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Good for emotions and feelings.
I feel the same way. Yeah, I feel the same way. Here's a quick dialogue. I'm not really sure I like the new office yet.
I feel the same way. It has some nice spaces, but I'm still getting used to it. Another section of agreeing is when we're thinking the same thing. Sometimes by coincidence, a coworker or a colleague or a friend says something almost exactly that you wanted to say. This happens quite a bit, so these are some good phrases to tell them that you agree because we're thinking the same thing. Number one, that's what I was about to say. That's what I was gonna say.
That's what I was about to say. That's what I was going to say. Here's a little dialogue with that phrase. The first version of the app was okay, but honestly, I still think it needs more work.
That's what I was gonna say. In a few more weeks, I think it'll look great. Here's another one, very similar. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Now, here's a quick conversation. I like the room, but it would be nicer with a few more pieces.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'll get started on that.
Okay, now this includes a good phrase. We're on the same page, which means we have the same opinion. We agree. So here's our phrase. We're definitely on the same page here. We're definitely on the same page here.
We're definitely on the same page here. Yes, we're definitely on the same page here. Here's a quick dialogue. I took a look at that report, and we're definitely on the same page here, so let's go ahead and get started.
Great. Looking forward to working with you. Now, here's a phrase that Mark agreed is mostly American. I'm not sure if it's the South part of the United States, but we definitely love this phrase. Now, we call this a fixed phrase because we don't usually change any of these words. You took the words right out of my mouth. You took the words right out of my mouth. So I use this sometimes when, wow, you said exactly what I wanted to say. The words were here and you took them right out of my mouth. So Mark is going to be a part of the conversation, but as an American, we use this phrase more often. So Mark will start.
Well, I was thinking we'd finish up this meeting a little early. Everyone's been working hard, and we can finish this tomorrow.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Let's wrap this up. See you tomorrow. All right. Our final little phrase, which I like, is actually just a single word. And it's a fun and informal way that we can use to joke or tease when two people say exactly the same thing at the same time. We use the word jinx, Jinx, jinx. And it's just kind of a funny thing. So Mark will start. We'll try to say it at the same time.
Okay. That man from HR, what's his name again? Jonathan.
Jonathan.
That.
Ha, jinx. Yeah, his name is Jonathan.
So it's kind of a
So,
competition. You have to
yeah,
say it first, right? If I
yes.
say jinx first, then I win. If you say it first, then I lose. It's like a race to say it first.
I would say, yes, you can use this with coworkers and colleagues, but ones that you're kind of friends with, because I think it can be seen as a little immature. If your boss is a very serious person, I wouldn't say, hey, jinx, boss. I probably wouldn't say that to them. But if you have a very easygoing and you both say the same thing at the same time, it's good luck to say, jinx, beat you, jinx.
Okay, so now let's move on to some words and expressions for when you disagree with a coworker or a colleague. This first set of phrases will be slightly or mildly disagreeing. And like we promised, we're going to do this professionally and politely.
So, phrase number one, I see your point, but I see your point. However,
I see your point, but I see your point, but so I slightly disagree. Maybe I agree with a little bit, but I'm not 100% convinced. Here's a quick dialogue.
We have a lot of younger customers, so we need social media ads.
I see your point, but it's the parents who are paying, not the kids. So I think TV would be better.
All right, so for another phrase where you are mildly disagreeing, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Now, it's funny because you are sure about your opinion, but you're not so sure about the other person's opinion. You're not so sure about the other person's sentence. I'm not so sure about that.
Not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Here's a quick dialogue. Sales are just going down and down. I think we should change our strategy.
I'm not so sure about that. We always have a sales dip this time of year. All right, here's another phrase for mildly disagreeing. That's one way to look at it, but this is a good way to tell the other person, yeah, that's good work, good idea, but this is what I think. That's one way to look at it, but
That's one way to look at it, but that's one way to look at it, but so in British and American culture, if we disagree, we like to be as soft as possible when we disagree. So these long phrases are part of making my opinion softer. If we disagree, we don't want any conflict or friction, so we can make our opinion softer. That's one way to look at it. Like, I understand your logic, and your logic is correct, but so we're using these phrases to just be a little bit politer, more polite.
oh, here's a quick conversation. Look, people don't know the value of things. We should charge much more.
I mean, that's one way to look at it, but customers can tell when they've wasted their money.
Here's another phrase. I had something a little different in mind. How about this instead? I had something a little different in mind. This is a good way to say, I don't really like it. That's not exactly what we talked about. I had something a little different in mind. How about this instead? So, this is offering a suggestion, offering a change. How about this instead?
I had something a little different in mind. How about this instead? I had something a little different in mind. How about this instead? Maybe I thought of some ideas before the meeting or before this discussion. I had my idea, and your idea is very different from mine. Here's a quick dialogue. We should go for advertisements on bus stops and billboards.
Oh, sure. Well, I had something a little different in mind. How about using local influencers online instead? So you can hear from the discussion. Mark wants bus stops and billboards. I want to work online. That's quite different. But nice soft language. I had something a little different in mind. I had something a little different in mind, even if it was the opposite. One is physical, one is digital. That's the opposite. But the way that we talk about it is much softer. I had something a little different in mind. How about this instead? How about this different thing instead? Now, because these next phrases are strongly disagreeing, in order to stay polite, we will start each phrase with a little softener, a phrase that keeps this really strong phrase polite and respectful. So, our first one, I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree. Now, the phrase that is quite strong, I respectfully disagree. I disagree is very strong on its own. I disagree. It's almost too direct. I respectfully disagree. Better, but we're starting it with a little softener. I hear what you're saying. I'm listening to you. I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree.
I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree. I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree. Here's a little dialogue with that phrase. We need to downsize the team. We can't afford to keep going like this.
Oh, okay. Well, I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully disagree. We should keep them on. All right, the next phrase. Ooh, sorry, that's not how I see it. Sorry, that's not how I see it.
Sorry, that's not how I see it. Sorry, that's not how I see it. The softener phrase is sorry. Maybe this is more common in the UK, but if we're about to disagree with you, British people might start with sorry. That's the softener to make our disagreement a little softer and more polite. Sorry, that's not how I see it.
So here's a good dialogue. You know, this main road desperately needs a nice upscale restaurant.
Sorry, but that's not how I see it. The main road is for young people who want to party.
Okay, our next one. I have to disagree. I have to disagree. This one is getting stronger and stronger. Ugh, I have to disagree.
I have to disagree. I have to disagree. You could soften this one again with a sorry. Sorry, I have to disagree. Here's a little dialogue. I think the managers will replace us with AI in a few years anyway.
Ugh, I have to disagree. AI can't talk to customers like we do. It's totally overhyped. All right, so this one is good because it feels solid. You're giving your disagreement. You're giving your opinion. I don't think that's the right solution. I don't think that's the right approach. I don't think that's the right answer. What I really like about this phrase specifically is we do not use the word you. You is very direct. You are the problem. You are the issue. I disagree with you. If we take the you out of it, I don't think that is the right solution. I don't think that's the right answer. This is a wonderful phrase. It's nice and formal, but it's not going to be impolite because we are not using you.
Yes, one of the keys of polite office talk is don't attack the person, attack the idea. Or don't disagree with you, disagree with the idea or the problem. That's much less personal and more respectful. So I don't think that's the right solution. I don't think that's the right approach. I don't think that's the right answer.
So here's a quick back and forth. Okay, let's combine the teams together, then they can finish the job faster.
Sorry, but I don't think that's the right approach. It'll only make things slower.
Okay, this is a good one. Sorry, I don't think I can get on board with that. On board, if you get on board with something, that means you agree, you are part of the project now, part of the opinion. Sorry, I don't think I can get on board with that. This is also a good phrase if something is against your beliefs, against what you're thinking. I can't get on board with that. I can't agree with you. Maybe it's because of how I feel. Maybe it's because I disagree. Maybe it's because of my beliefs. I can't get on board with that.
Sorry, I don't think I can get on board with that. Sorry, I don't think I can get on board with that. Again, sorry is the little softener.
All right, so here's a quick dialogue. Hey, the client wants the new project to be finished by Monday. What do you think?
Sorry, I don't think I can get on board with that. It'd be impossible to finish everything in 4 days. The last one is more for British people, or if you work in a British office. I'm not keen on that idea at all. I'm not keen on that idea at all. The British part of it is the word keen. I'm keen on means I like it, so I'm not keen on it, I don't like it. You'll hear this phrase more often in the UK. I'm keen on this, I'm not keen on that. It's a common way to say that you dislike something politely and respectfully.
So, a quick back and forth. Well, management wants to try out using AI chatbots to replace our customer service teams.
Wow. Okay, I'm not keen on that idea at all.
So now I know for sure that Mark is very against that. Ooh, I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all.
Not keen. Yeah, not keen.
All right, so we've got two more phrases that sometimes you will just never agree with someone. That's okay. That's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. But I quite like this phrase, let's agree to disagree. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. It's okay that we have differences, but let's stop talking about it. Let's agree to disagree.
Let's agree to disagree. Okay, let's agree to disagree. This is a way to finish a discussion. If both your opinions are complete opposites, you're not going to change your mind, they're not going to change their mind. Okay, let's agree to disagree.
Look, we've been talking about this for hours. Let's just let it go.
Okay, yes, let's agree to disagree. Now, the conversation is over. No more.
No more, please. Please, I can't anymore.
Yes.
Okay, this is a really good one. This is a very fixed phrase. To see eye to eye means to agree, but we almost always use this more commonly in the negative. So when we don't see eye to eye. So I just don't think we see eye to eye on this. I just don't think we see eye to eye. That means we don't have the same opinions. We don't agree. And it's okay if we don't see eye to eye sometimes, but it can also be a reason why you don't want to talk to someone, why you don't really want to have a conversation or you don't want to work with someone. We just don't really see eye to eye.
I just don't think we see eye to eye on this. I just don't think we see eye to eye on this. Here's a quick dialogue. I think it's clear that the mistake came from your team.
Okay, look, I just don't think we see eye to eye on this, and that's okay. But I think we should just move on.
Okay, there you go. Those are some amazing, useful phrases you can use at work to agree and disagree with your coworkers, all while being respectful and professional, but still honest. Hopefully, you can use some of these in your next meetings or discussions in your office in English at work.
That's right. Again, don't forget that you can get a downloadable PDF transcript of this episode by becoming a high level listener member here on YouTube. All the info for that is available in the description below. You can click join and join us here on YouTube. Thank you so much again for joining us here in class today. We will see you again very soon for our next video. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.